Look at a father and son standing side by side, and you will often see the same man at two different ages. The same shrug, the same temper, the same silence at the dinner table. This is not coincidence. It is inheritance, and it runs deeper than genes. Your child will be the same as you if you do not change. Your father will become you if you do not question his thoughts and his actions. The only thing standing between you and the person you were raised to be is the willingness to look. Sigmund Freud gave this machine a name, the repetition compulsion. In Beyond the Pleasure Principle, he observed that people unconsciously repeat the patterns that shaped them, even the painful ones. We do not merely remember our childhoods. We reenact them. A man who was controlled becomes controlling. A woman who was ignored marries men who ignore her. The tragedy is not that we inherit our parents' flaws. The tragedy is that we inherit them without noticing and pass them on without deciding. The compulsion repeats until someone, somewhere, refuses to repeat it. Immanuel Kant understood why we refuse. In his 1784 essay, An Answer to the Question, What is Enlightenment?, he wrote that enlightenment is man's emergence from his self-imposed immaturity. Immaturity, he says, is the inability to use one's understanding without the guidance of another, and it is self-imposed when its cause is not a lack of intelligence, but a lack of courage. Kant names the guardians, the parents, the teachers, the tradition that is happy to think for us. It is comfortable to be guided. It is easy to say, my father believed this, so I believe it. Kant's command is famous, Sapir ode, dare to know, dare to think for yourself. Not because your parents are wrong, but because you will never know whether they are right until you have examined them. Socrates made the same demand centuries earlier, and he died for it. In Plato's Apology, Socrates tells the court that the unexamined life is not worth living. Not the uneducated life. Not the unsuccessful life. The unexamined life. A life that runs on inherited software, never opened, never questioned, is not really a life at all. It is a loop. Socrates did not teach people what to think. He taught them to ask. And the asking is exactly what breaks the generational loop. The child who asks why, the adult who asks whether the answer still holds. Friedrich Nietzsche gave us the most beautiful picture of this breaking. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, in the chapter of the three metamorphoses, the spirit becomes a camel, then a lion, then a child. The camel takes on the burden, all the thou shalts inherited from parents and culture, loaded onto its back. The camel is the good child, the one who carries the family's expectations without complaint. But at some point the camel must become a lion. The lion fights the dragon of thou shalt, whose scales shine with ancient values, to win the right to say no. Nietzsche warns that the lion cannot create new values. That is the child's work, the child, who is innocence and forgetting, a new beginning, a sacred yes. Becoming who you are, Nietzsche insists, is not automatic. It is an act of war against the values you were handed. Here is what this means in a kitchen, not a cathedral. Questioning your father is not betrayal. It is the only way to honor him. If you accept his thoughts unexamined, you will reproduce his errors, and his errors will become your child's inheritance. If you examine them, you can keep what is true and discard what is broken. The same applies to what you pass down. Your child is watching you the way you watched your father. They will absorb your anger, your patience, your fears, your silences, not your lectures. Change, if it happens, happens in the visible life, not the stated one. So the question is not whether your child will become you. The question is which parts of you they will become. The parent who never questions leaves a child who never questions, who grows into a parent who never questions, and the loop tightens for another generation. The parent who questions leaves the child a gift far more valuable than any belief: permission to think, permission to say no to what is broken, and yes to what is built anew. Change is not a luxury. It is the only inheritance worth leaving. Your father will become you if you do not question. Your child will be the same as you if you do not change. The loop ends where it always ends, with one person who finally asks, why?